Welcome to the Empower Her Moments morning show, where we create intentional mindset shifts, empower women to embrace their potential, and open their hearts to their deepest desires. Join Margot, the beauty guru, your self-love and business strategist, and Dr. Alicia A. Williams, your transformation and empowerment coach. These dynamic women are here to guide you, inspire you, and uplift you. Together, they'll help you unleash your potential and own your journey. It's time to step into your greatness. Let's get started.
Have you ever held back your truth because you were afraid of being judged or you were worried about how other people may react?
Listen, absolutely not. Let's talk about it. Dr. Alicia Williams has no problem speaking her truth. And let me tell you one of the things, and I think that came from being raised as my father was strong. Mm-hmm. And my parents are strong. And right. So my dad was one of those individuals, he gonna say what he have to say, whether you like it or not, because what I've understood as I grew up to be the woman that I am today, my voice was my power.
Love that.
My voice was my power. You can't shut me up because whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to get my point across, whether you like it or not.
Love it. Well, you know what, Dr. Alicia, you took it right out of my mouth because, you know, my whole thing is even when we were talking about doing this subject, I was like, honey, listen, I never was short on speaking my mind. One thing about it is important to have your voice. It's important to speak your piece. But to your point, Dr. Alicia, sometimes your childhood shapes you when it comes to your voice, right? Not all the time, but sometimes. And that's something that we're going to touch on because we want to throw some things out so we as parents could be mindful, right, of the things that we pour and put into our children because those things like shut up. Those things like keep your mouth closed. Those things like don't talk out of my house. All of those things play a role and a part in silencing us as adults.
And, you know, to your point, while I was listening to what you were saying, I was thinking back, putting myself in two positions. You have to remember I'm a former educator. Right. So I think from two sides of it. I always think from the educator side point, and as a parent. Right. And so when you hear the words, shut up, be quiet, don't say anything unless I've given you permission, the educator side is the same thing. Right. Don't speak unless I've called you to speak. Correct. However, one of the things I've learned, now that I'm no longer, well, let me say it, I'm always an educator. My classroom just looks different today. Here, individuals try to silence children. As an educator, that would upset me because they also have rights. Right. They are allowed to speak because they do have a truth. And so that really hit home with me because I saw this and experienced this many years. I was never that educated because I said, no, you do have a right to speak. Right. Just because I'm the adult does not give me the right to silence you.
Love that. I love that because the thing is this, we have to be mindful of what we pour into our children, also what we pour into ourselves as adults, right? Because this is the thing. Our inner voice is the loudest voice. I tell people that all the time. Our inner voice is the loudest voice. And what you have to understand, those doubtful comments, those doubtful conversations that we have with ourselves, they don't want to hear what you got to say anyway. What you got to say is not important.
Yes, it is.
Well, you know what? Every time you open your mouth, somebody has something to say. Those are the things that we unnaturally pour into our minds and our hearts. And it hinders us from really speaking our truth. And so it's so funny that you mentioned that because Dr. Alicia, let me tell you something. One thing about me, my voice has been my voice. Come on. And that was the only thing I had. And, you know, I've shared some things about my upbringing, but just having to protect yourself, it positioned me to say, listen, either I get ran over by the bus or you stand up for yourself and have something to say. And that's what I chose.
And, you know, for me, in a prior episode, we talked about the vulnerability. Yes. You know, me being the emotional being and would cry and said, well, let me tell you something. I was not a pushover.
Love that.
So I would cry, but I was going to have my say. Right. And I was one of those individuals. I was not afraid to speak out and share what I was actually feeling inside. Correct. Because a lot of people will suppress that because they feel like they're going to be attacked in some shape, form, or fashion. Or you can't say that. Don't do that. In the professional world, you have to speak out or they're going to run you over. Oh, remember, at 5'3", I was the administrator. Where did she come from?
Right.
How did she have the power to say what she needed to say? Because I understood who I was. I understood who I am. You have to know who you are and whose you are, and understand that it is okay. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of this coffee real quick.
Sip that coffee, girl. Sip the coffee.
But yes, understand for me, it was a sense of empowerment.
Right.
As women, it is okay to speak up and speak out. In certain sectors, just think back in the older years, the women had to hush.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They were the men were the only ones that were allowed to speak.
That's
well,
true.
we know that we are the queen of I've got something to say. One of the things that I often say is I'm going to give it to you straight.
Right.
I know no other way but to come to you correctly and say, this is what it is. So to speak out and share how I feel about something was very important. I was not one of those individuals to sit in a room and silence myself. No, what I had to say was important.
That's huge. That's huge. And the thing is this, so many people suffer in silence. So many people suffer in that space where they have lost their voice. And it can be for many reasons. It can be for not just your upbringing. It could be your current situation. It can be abuse. It can be mistreatment. It can be, just being looked over and not acknowledged in rooms. And so we thought that this conversation was very much needed because there are so many of us that are struggling in different spaces, but finding your voice is so important.
It is. It is as African-American females, as women as a whole, we're in a season let me tell you something. You are who you are because God made you uniquely, wonderfully, and fearfully. So when we speak about the last word, be fearless.
Yes.
Be fearless and don't be afraid to speak out and show up for who you are. If no one else is going to support you, go hard for you, you go hard for you.
Yes.
I'm going to speak up and say what I need to say because I know what I'm saying matters. And if you don't make them understand what you have to say and what you bring to the table matters, then they're going to walk right over you or they're going to disregard you.
You're right. But this is something that I was thinking about, Dr. Alicia, when you was explaining your point. Being in a position of being silenced is a lonely place, right? And I think sometimes, and I'm, just thinking of some things in rooms that I've been in, we can almost identify those people that are in rooms who have lost their voice, who have lost their will to speak or to say anything. And at the end of the day, those people, they sit dormant and they sit in silence. And I'm bringing that point up for us who do have a voice. Be able to see those people in the room still, because a lot of times people who are silent feel they're invisible.
Oh, yeah. They need that encouragement. So it takes women like us or women like you, when you recognize that in another female, encourage them. Give them the confidence to speak up and speak out, especially if you are aware about some things that they may be currently dealing with and they've been silenced, where they may have been silenced in their marriage. And may be afraid. There may be some things going on that they want to talk about. But you be that safe space for them to say, you know what, here's a safe space for you to talk about what's actually going on. That is happening today with so many women in friend groups, in relationships, even with their children. Because we, as mothers, we mother. We mother in a way that, unfortunately, men, nothing against you, no slight against you, but a mother comes a completely different way when their no is a complete different no. How we handle things is complete different. We don't silence our children more than anything. The dad may, no, you hush. That's that male tone, that sternness comes in, whereas a mother's a little bit more nurturing. No, allow Timmy to say what he needs to say. Because if you don't give them that safe space, that's where we come in as a nurturer to allow them to speak whatever it is that they may be feeling. So it can go so many different ways.
I definitely agree with your point. And like for me, my previous, I've, done a lot of things in my time, but I can say I always had a voice. I think my thing is that when it came to public settings, I was still a little shy. I was still a little introverted, right? But what I realized is, especially being in law enforcement and being a cop almost 10 years, you have to have a voice, right? You don't have no other choice because you're out there, you're in the elements, you're dealing with the people. So I can say that was another important part of my life that really just gave me that public, that vocal voice out loud and in rooms, that authoritative situation. It helped me exercise that muscle. So even with leaving out of the law enforcement space, I kept that. You know, I kept that confidence. And ladies, let me tell you this. For those of you all who are silent or have been silent, who probably haven't always been in that position, understand it's important to find your voice. Find your voice, because what you have to say matter, what you think matter. And people in the rooms that you're in, people who are surrounded around you, you have something that's important that they need to hear.
And here's the thing. It's about you showing up as your authentic self, letting them know, I don't need your approval, but you're going to hear what I have to say.
Yes.
That is very important. And I keep reverting back to when I was in the working field. In my career, is that I will often hear people silent. And I'm one of the ones I'm like, I want to nudge you and be like, let me speak up for you. You're not going to say nothing because I'm saying something. Yes. Because I don't like to see people, I have seen it in so many situations where there's an internal battle. Right. They want to say something, but they are afraid if they say something that they're going to be reprimanded. Right. Oh, I'm telling you from a professional standpoint, someone who's set in high positions, I would watch my subordinates say things, and then I would watch my colleagues give them an eye. Right. Right. But this is the thing, though. Even in that space, it's like when you choose not to have a voice, you have to understand the position you put other people in as well, right? Because I've been that person. Of course, when you're a person that speaks out and you're vocal about things, you have no problem protecting other people. I don't have a problem with saying, excuse me, sir, ma'am. Exactly. This ain't gonna work, right? However, the thing is when you're surrounded or with people who don't speak up, it puts you in bad positions. We're going to talk about that because the thing is, it's all different sides and angles we can look at this. Oh, yeah, right? Most definitely. It's all sides. And it goes back to what we always talk about. Who are you surrounded around? Who are you spending your time with? What your circle look like? That is extremely important because even when you fall into those silent places and spaces, you have that encouragement. You have that sister to say, hey, sis, you've been a little quiet lately. Or you know what? When we were in that meeting, when Peggy said something, I noticed you had really nothing to say. Because my whole thing is, don't talk my ears off when you're in the room. That's right. Don't talk my ears off. You had the opportunity to say something. Listen, that's a pet peeve of mine. One thing about me, if I go in a room and go in a space and tell you I'm going to say something, trust me, my mouth will open and I will say. Don't get me in a room and you telling me you're going to back me up and I get in there and stand up and I go to look into the left and to the right. And what happened? Michael, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. So even in those spaces, for those who recognize that you've been silent, understand and be thoughtful of the people that are around you. Most definitely. And you spoke about something earlier. Let's speak about your girlfriends. You know, sometimes things happen within your relationships and you go silent, knowing that you should say something. Right. But you're afraid to say something because you know your intentions is not to hurt that individual, but there may be judgment or there may be some type of backlash. But that comes with assessing that friend group and understanding the level of maturity within that friend group. Okay, so let me ask you this, Dr. Alicia. When it comes to the friend group space, because I love Come on, I got a lot to say. Okay, so when it comes to the friendship space, when it comes to that, when you notice that you have a friend that don't speak out, and you take that notion. Let's say, for instance, it's a couple of us in the friend group, and I noticed that this one friend just really don't show up for herself. Like things are being done to her, things are being said to her. What advice would you give that woman that sits in that friend group or don't feel supported in that space to speak up? Because a lot of times you can have a bully in a friend group. Oh, most definitely. You can have someone that positions people not
to address them, or whenever you do try to address them, it's the hooping and the hollering and the acting crazy, and so it positions getting out of pocket. So it positions people to be like, you know what, I ain't even gonna say nothing to her because I ain't got time to deal with this.
Right.
What's your advice to that friend who's in that space, in that friend group, who's dealing with the bully, who's dealing with the I cannot confront, or dealing with that friend that doesn't have the bandwidth to apologize or see themselves?
Well, let me say, I'm the one in the friend group that's going to address that individual. If I notice that you're the bully, like they call me out of my friend group, the mama in the group.
Okay, so you the mama.
I'm the mama in the group.
Okay.
I'm the one that's gonna
see that.
I'm the one that's gonna reel everybody back in.
Right.
And if I notice that something is not right or another individual is being mistreated, I'm going to speak it in front of everybody.
That's right.
I'm not going to pull you to the side. I'm going to have, you need to correct that, and you need to correct that right now because you hurt her feelings or you didn't acknowledge her. And I'm going to tell the one who has trouble speaking up for herself, you need to explain to her what she did to you and how she hurt you and how it makes you feel.
So I love that. Okay, so Dr. Alicia, your aim is to facilitate a conversation.
I'm the facilitator.
Love that. And one thing about me, I love hard conversations because they need to be had. How are we going to be friends when we can't have conversations?
That's the problem with grown women now. They run from hard conversations.
Right. And this is my thing too. When you're in a space or in a friend space, are you really a good friend when you see things are happening or you see certain things going? Let me tell some of my tea, honey. Because
I think we're about to get into it with this one.
We finna get into it because this is the thing. Another thing. When you are someone's friend, you call out what's happening.
That's right.
When you sit back and talk to other friends about a friend that you should be having a direct conversation with, I'm here to let you know you're not a good friend.
Right. And there's no need for this conversation to go any further because you're having it with the wrong person.
You're having it with the wrong person. And which leads me to understanding your intentions aren't good.
Oh,
your intentions aren't good. So, and I brought that point up to say, if you're in a position or in a friend group space where you're experiencing bullying or you're experiencing people overlooking you or over talking you or not giving you a chance to express yourself, listen, find you another space.
Please, quick, fast, and a hurry.
Find you another space because you have to understand that it has to be mutual respect. Everyone has to be equally able to share their thoughts, opinions, and views. And if you're not able to do that, that's not the space for you.
No, and let's just take it back. Not that it's not the space for you. They're not your friend.
That's true.
Let's go back to baby, we can talk about assessment all day because Margot is going to talk about these assessments. That's the first thing that we're going to do.
Let's take the test, honey.
Let's take the test and let's see if you pass.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the truth of the matter is every relationship is tested.
Every relationship
is tested. And like I tell people often, it's not the offense that breaks the relationship. It's what's done afterwards.
Right.
And a lot of times it's the hard conversations aren't had, or it's no real accountability, or there's no honesty about why I've done this. Why I chose to do this. And so at the end of the day, guys, listen, finding your voice is so important.
You have to. Just truly understand how powerful you are when you use your voice. Don't allow people to silence you.
Let's talk about the confidence you gain when you learn to speak your voice.
But when I feel like I got something to say, I'm coming with it.
Them shoulders, honey, them shoulders sit back.
Shoulders sit up.
Dr. Alicia walking up like, me.
That voice is going to carry. But I believe that when you're confident in who you are, you're going to be confident in what you have to say to the people. I don't know about you, but when I walk into the room, I understand who I am, what room I am, and I know what I'm about to say.
Right.
And I'm going to immediately gain their attention. And it's going to be because there's a mutual respect.
That's right.
You have to also understand the rooms that you're in, the people that you're around, the places that you are.
You're right.
So a lot of times people, they don't say anything or they silence themselves is because, she in the room.
Yeah.
My boss is watching.
Right.
We can keep going. There's so many different angles that we can look at and why so many people they're not silent because they really want to be silent, but there's a level of fear that has been put in them by certain individuals, certain situations. They feel like if I say something, I'm going to lose something.
Okay, and so let's talk about this because it's another aspect. Because one thing about me, I like to look at all angles of situations.
Come on, give me from the left to the right.
When we say that slogan or we say that statement and say your silence speaks volume.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about that because it's different types of silence.
Come on.
Okay, so now we're talking about the person who have lost their voice for whatever the reason is, right? The circumstance, the relationship, the marriage, life circumstances, or your mom told you to keep your mouth closed, right? But there's also another silence where people lose their voice and it's very much loud, right? Because in those times, those people, they're silent when it's a lot of noise. A lot of people having a lot to say. And so for me, what I've learned in time, those people in those instances that stay silent in those times, they silently pick a side.
Come on.
But they're not confident enough and bold enough to say what side they have picked.
Come on.
And that's another issue with people losing their voice. It's a different aspect, but it's so real. And it happens all the time. Your silence speaks volume. It's louder.
It's actually louder.
It's louder than you even opening your mouth.
But let's look at it from a different angle too as well. Kind of very, very similar. Sometimes as women, we go silent to keep the peace, to avoid the drama.
Dr. Alicia, I hear you on that. And you're right in some aspects.
Okay.
But
give me your take on that.
Okay, so this is my take. Now, there are times that I sit silent. I do.
Okay.
You know, but those moments aren't detrimental. Those moments aren't like where we're hatching something out where stuff need to be said. You get what I'm saying? Because this is the thing. Also, what I realize is in friendship spaces, people who don't engage, you got to watch them.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
People don't engage. So I'm not saying every situation you got to be ready to sound the alarm.
Ready to pop off.
But what I'm saying is you have to be vested in certain conversations.
Most definitely.
However, to your point, there are times where you should silence yourself to keep the peace in the room. Absolutely. Because see, one thing about me, I'm going to say what I got to say and I'm done. I ain't got to keep talking about what I said.
I'm not going to keep talking about what I said.
Right. I said what I said. Conversation going.
But let me say this. I got to step in here. A lot of times when I have silenced myself is because God told me to be quiet.
Yeah, it's happened to me sometimes.
I'm in a season of obedience. And there are times when he said, no. This ain't your battle.
Right. Absolutely.
This is my battle. So let me handle that. So when I'm silent, it has nothing to do with man. It has everything to do with God.
And I agree with that. And so that's a whole nother different situation.
Because
guess what? When I have been in situations where I've been silent because God is showing me something in that season. I have sat with people who have had some real crazy conversations with me. But I've been silent because I have to listen and take in what you're saying. Because it's things that I need to pay attention to because it's decisions I need to make. That's just how it goes.
And so when I'm silent in those times, it's because he's giving me directions on what steps I need to take moving forward.
Yes, and Dr. Alicia, I'm talking about those times when you know you should say something. I'm talking about them times where you sit in quiet with yourself, but your gut is telling you this is a time that you should speak. This is a time that you should give your opinion on something. Listen, trust your intuitions. Trust the discernment that you have. Don't sit in spaces when you know it's something that you should say and you not say it. Don't walk outside and get in your car. It hurts you at the end of the day. And not only that, people are watching. People see you. They see you. So again, I encourage you all, if you have something to say, say it. Like Dr. Alicia said, there are times that God will silence you and he will sit you and tell you to sit in it. And guess what? I'm a student each and every day for that.
Every day.
Every day for that.
And it doesn't always look good.
It don't feel good.
But I guarantee the results
That's right.
are even better.
But
that comes with, again, a level of maturity.
It does. And just being obedient. And so, listen, ladies, we're having this conversation about finding your voice because so many of us have lost it in certain spaces and places. And guess what? Even though simultaneously I was born with my voice because I came out the womb, baby, having something to say. But there are times and instances in my life where I lost my voice.
Right.
I lost it. And so for any of you all who are listening to us and listening to this conversation, if you have lost your voice at any point in time, work on finding it. You know, a lot of the things that the jewels that we're dropping in this conversation with, helping you just see things from all different aspects, Dr. Alicia, and just understand that your voice is powerful. Like Dr. Alicia said, that's your superpower.
That is my, one of the things, if you know me, one of the things that I often say, no one else is you, and that is your superpower. You have to show up as your authentic self. You have to use your voice. Use your voice. People need to hear it. And when they don't hear it, then that's where, okay, she's weak,
Yes.
or the judgment comes, or different things come up, different things about you that are not necessarily true will come up about you. But if you speak your truth,
yes,
and not be afraid to speak your truth, no matter what comes behind it, you will walk in power.
yes. And I just encourage, like, find those safe spaces. You know, find them safe spaces. Find that girlfriend that you can just talk things through and try it.
Yeah.
Open your mouth, speak, say what you got to say. Hear the responses. Hear people say, sis, that was good. I'm glad you brought that to my attention, because what you have to understand is people need to hear what you have to say.
They have
If
to.
it's productive, people need to hear from you. So whatever that thing that has held you back and has silenced you, whatever that thing that has made you feel like what you have to say is not important, I encourage you this morning. Listen, today, listen, step into your power. Understand that you are important, and understand that what you have to say is powerful, and people need to hear from you.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Alicia, that's what you got to
You know what?
All right.
That is it. We
Okay,
have
Brian,
said
let
a
me
lot.
go ahead and wrap up.
That was a lot. That was a lot. Okay. That was good.
That was good.
That was
was
really good. Because a lot of people struggle with that.
Yes,
I mean,
in all different aspects of the silence.
It's so many angles to this whole silence thing, and I see it. I'm telling you, I saw it so much in education, where I was the one I had to do a lot of speaking up for people, because I can't sit back and watch people be taken advantage of.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that was hard conversations with them, but that goes with them knowing who they are, because some of them, they were dealing with some things where they were silent in their personal lives, and they couldn't speak out.
And that's what I was saying. Sometimes the silence hasn't always been there. Sometimes you could be a very outspoken person, and life would tear you down, would silence you. But what I want to encourage you, you ladies, to do is get in them safe spaces. Get in them safe spaces where people see you and can love you through it, okay? And so if you're still navigating on this journey, Dr. Alicia and we are here to help you, okay? If you're trying to figure some things out, go to our website, empowerhermoments.com. Schedule your coaching session with either myself or Dr. Alicia. So thank you for joining us on the Empower Her Moments Morning Show. This episode is powered by Brian Williams. He's a residential and commercial real estate agent with Prestige Real Estate Group, okay? Follow him at Brian_Realtor ATL, and you can also email him at brianwilliams@prestigerealestategroup.com, okay? So until next time, keep shining, stay empowered, and know that you are capable of doing some amazing things, okay? See you next time.
Have a great one, everyone. Thanks for joining us.